information if you have additional questions for me. Yeah.
So I know Luminarty, but I haven't used Concept Station that much. Most of the projects that I work on are kind of urban street design, which has a lot of kind of multimodal, bed, bike, transit, and a lot of like building context that also is important. Does these softwares are able to incorporate all of that, especially on some of the bike facilities? They're like changing so frequently.
Right.
The design and the standards. So are these softwares being able to incorporate all of that?
LumenRT is kind of like a finished product. So after I modeled everything in MicroStation, and I had done the original renderings for this before we were even playing with LumenRT. So after this was over, I went back and I kind of redid it, and then that was the video I showed was kind of just a screen capture as I did it. Concept Station is somewhat limited for our purposes. I said our partners have a great attention to detail, so it's meant to be very basic and conceptual. So it doesn't get into every single detail you're going to want to see. So I would say, in my case, using it, it depends on the project. It depends on the project and it depends on the audience. Yeah.
Does the LumenRT has the capability, because I understand it's limited to actually change the design itself rather than context, but is there an opportunity to have, say, 2 or 3 candidate designs, and then you can show before and after, or here's how it looks now, and then press another button? I can see the interactivity of the software, but I was wondering if you can change scenario on the fly.
You can turn some levels on and off, but what I would do in that situation is just make 2 separate files side by side.
I would then use a different, like a video software. So you take the videos of both, or take the movies, and then put them together in something else to create your final video, depending on the product that you want to show.
Right.
But, it's using the different software programs and finding those workflows that work together. And you can pull in sketch, and you can draw something in MicroStation, import that in. You create something 3ds and X, and I put that down into there too. So it's pulling what you need together and finding those workflows so make it work for your project.
Right. Anybody else? That's all I have. Thank you.
All right. We didn't really, other than Jim, we didn't really pepper anybody else with questions. Are there other questions for the earlier speakers? Sir?
My question is for Steve. A comment maybe, not very a question. I think you utilizing all the tools, you mentioned static LiDAR, mobile LiDAR, the drones. The only problem I see, which we all in the learning business or stage of the drones, for example, for what you need it for. I see, like you mentioned twice, one, I think the altitude 1100, 1200, and you mentioned 500. In my opinion, those are too high for work to compete with the LiDAR, for example. I mean, your example you brought about the drones, UAS, UAV product, using it just for visualization, I think you can sequence it and use it much more than that. I mean, short of the design grade, you can use it for all other design. I tell you, if you fly it at 100 or cover, I know the terrain is challenging in Arizona, but you always can do the flight planning to fly 150 AGL, for example, for that signal. The static LiDAR is great, like you found, and is very accurate. But when you have 33,000 miles of roads, I don't think the static will be the only tool for this kind of, microscopic things. Drones can add a lot to you. Very productive, very accurate. It has all the effect, high resolution. But like I said, the accuracy lacking for the design when we talk about 1/10 of a foot, 0.15, 0.1. We're not getting that accuracy. 2/10, 3/10 accuracy, I think the drones would be great for it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So I should probably add in that the full breadth of the program really. So we've got tricopter and quadcopter. So we do 50, 80, 100, 200 feet. So we've really run sequences all the way from the tricopter, quadcopter, where we'll fly it around the bridge structure itself. LiDAR, we just finished a multi-million-dollar contract for mobile LiDAR to populate our asset management databases. So that's a multi-million-dollar undertaking. But yeah, when you're talking about 1 meter contour work, and I'll go the other way with the comment, we've actually been trying to figure out what centimeter accuracy really means to us relative to design, especially on the hydrologic and hydraulic side. So you're absolutely right. I think what we're still trying to find is the sweet spot. The other thing is, from a technology standpoint, these things crash. The gyroscopics, the GPS locators in these things, the equipment is still evolving. ADOT's actually purchased one. We work with DPS that is far more advanced. That's Department of Public Safety, so that's our state police. They're far more advanced from an enforcement standpoint, so they've been working off their proof of concepts for the technology adoption in which equipment. Cameras is another thing, stability in the camera itself. But then there's also an artistic form to developing, right now most of our drone stuff, especially the higher stuff, fixed wing, before it was by plane, photogrammetric by plane, is also developing those ortho images. There's an artistic format then when you get to the point of having to convert ortho images and then blend them with, say, terrestrial LiDAR and come up with quality LAS files. And then, right, as we pointed out from these other great presentations on, what's your end product? Is it a little bit more artistic visual rendering for communications? Is it something that's probably a little bit more quality asset and structural formatting base for progress meetings? Or, as one comment pointed out, where are we from the standpoint of allowing, say, like we're also experimenting, we have a separate pilot where we're taking point cloud data, putting it into cloud software and seeing the quality of the measurability of it. What can you actually design from a quantities and so yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a lot of times it's the light is out in the room and you're still trying to find the light switch. But we have experimented through all those different altitudes.
Great. Other questions?
Jennifer, with regards to the concept station, how limited is the program? I mean, why wouldn't you just go straight into a detailed design model for a concept stage instead of doing a concept station, then Luminar T, and then taking the concept station and export to a detailed program? What will be the advantage of the concept station in that interim?
So with concept station, you actually just start drawing. You just start clicking the road into you download a DTM and the aerial, so you have a 3D model. You might not even have that at the beginning of concept design. You're not given that, so you can download that right away. You just start drawing the road. You put a template in, and someone says, "Hey, can I just change that to 3 lanes?" And you're like, if you were doing that in a detailed design and having already offset all those lines, you can erase all of them.
Well,
But with the template, you can just add another one, and then it changes automatically and renders it right there.
well, in open roads, you can do that same capability, just depending on your approach to the job. So I'm wondering, with the concept station, how many rules are limited? Because I know you won't be able to do a detailed intersection there, but you can do the same level of concept design in a detailed program if you chop down the rules. So I'm still wondering the advantage of doing in a program that has limited rules when you can do one that has unlimited rules and just limit your rules. And so I'm wondering the advantage of the concept versus using the detailed program, trim down its rules.
One thing that, one part of it is that not everybody is going to open roads yet. So not everybody has that capability, and that takes a lot more training to get to using that program. Well, Concept Station, anybody can just open it and click on it. It's very intuitive, very easy to use. There's that aspect of it.
Okay.
But
So I
then,
mean, I'd add to that too, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So Info works very similar, right? I mean,
Yeah.
these are similar products. So it's the usability, it's how quick you can build context before you have any detailed information. Don't pull in aerials and all that stuff. You just like down your area and it creates a TTM, gives you aerial, gives you all kinds of stuff. So it's very quick sketching almost, but 3D modeling sketching all at one time.
And the other thing in there too, it has all that concrete, it has everything already built in, you don't have to go and like choose all of that setup.
It's a simpler interface for the layman to understand.
Far simpler. And it's pure modeling based
But,
design.
but the basic thing is like, you can continue on it like what you say, that it would be nice if the concept station, I know like James, you said you cannot create a plan from it or something, you just,
Yeah,
for,
you gotta.
I'm not sure why they didn't let you just take the plan you created or plan from that visualization and you move on to the design stage, you know, I mean, I'm not sure why they didn't do it.
You can export all that
You
to
can
open
export
rows.
Yeah.
Huh?
You can export it all over rows.
Oh,
So
you can?
Yeah, and then you can play with your profile some more.
Okay, if you can, that's all.
Yeah,
Because
there's no
in
data
other
loss.
cities, you can't really do that much with it, you know, okay.
So you can generate a plan sheet from it. It would be nice to be able to show a profile and, you know, spit out a quick plan sheet of that profile. But what you can do with it is, it's good for early on conceptual,
Sure.
kind of getting people on board with the project. And then once you're done with it, you can dump that into MicroStation. It exports the ALG, so you can bring that online.
Sure, so you can do something with it
Yeah.
and continue.
You can go back and forth, I can take an
Okay.
ALG and import that into concept stations, and then you just apply your template from there. So if you did have it from open rows, you can just take it back to get that visualization very quickly.
That makes sense, that's it.
The template extraction though, what it looked like in the next product.
They give an ITL and .IRD, so they have that roadway, they have it all in there to continue forward. So it puts the components in that the templates are good with.
That would be your seed, yeah.
Okay, it just, the technique I approach is a little different from having a single template method because there's limitations on usability on doing a single template. So may not all the data will be salvageable, at least some will be salvageable. At least the control lines will be salvageable, but not the template itself. Just because the technique that I use is breaking up the one template into multiple pieces for better functionality in the detailing.
In our case, we have our own template library with our own point names and everything else, which Concept Station doesn't match. So I could take those templates from Concept Station over, or I could just take that ALG into MicroStation, use my own templates and apply them, and it'd be done. So it's a good starting point to develop an ALG, and then you can take it further.
And even when you, like you said, you can take it somewhere and you can literally change something, like, oh, this radius needs to be 400, let's see what it says about 1,000. And you make that change and then you can visually see that right there, instead of having to redraw things.
How efficient in bringing point to cloud? I know you said you can bring PTN, Jennifer, but can you bring LiDAR point to cloud, say like from the terrestrial or a mobile LiDAR, very dense? Would it handle it right?
I don't see why not. Concept Station is computationally somewhat expensive itself. It tends to use a lot of resources. So I would be careful how much data you try to load into it. But you can create, if you have your own surface, you can bring in your own surface.
So I can speak to that a little bit as well. So two quick comments. So service providers, finished product provider. So I would be a purchaser of those services. So a little bit more along the lines of what you were talking about. I think it was if me as the service purchaser gets a contract with my engineering firm, my design firm, and I put the scope of work out for what I want. I think then a lot of times, like when we request survey, roadway, edge of pavement survey, I'm not so sure we're always so concerned with how that consultant survey firm is capturing that data. Traditional means, mobile LiDAR, we just want to know what imports. In this instance, the contractor or the resource center provider has to decide, based on the amount of money that we're willing to pay as a DOT, how you can deliver your product. In some of these softwares, depending on the skill set inside it, I'm assuming one of them is going to be more, shall we say, profitable than something that may be, unless you may have that skill to develop that initial data set. Now, on the large data sets, I will say we had those exact pilots and proof of concepts as well in working with our consultant engineering firms on importing and exporting. So we went through that. We were curious in GIS and CAD and MicroStation and some of these other ones, how easily these data sets flow back and forth. In many instances, we went with what I've just termed clip data. So we did have kind of an agreed upon data set size because we just agreed without even wanting to find out these massive data sets were just going to be unwieldy to use and quite honestly unnecessary. Obviously, the higher you go up, as you made a great point about, the more you're going to end up with. But yeah, it's you have to sit down at the table and come up with the exact scope of work and then the deliverables that you're trying to achieve. And then I think how much we want to pay, and then you guys have to decide on the provider side how much profit there is and what exact process you're going to go through to deliver that item for us. So.
One point on that also on the Inforworks side, right, on Autodesk product that we've just released, we spent a lot of time focusing on feature extraction from point clouds as the painful point in the process, right? And so we focused that in Inforworks for that intuitive workflows and building out these models with the early stages, building on context of each object. So yeah, exactly. So the three things we've got now is bare earth, of course, very quick one click. A lot of classification of the point cloud, so we can quickly thin that point cloud down in that environment, down to about 10% of the original size, but keeping the bits that are important. And then point feature extraction, so trees, poles, and as Autodesk, right, we're in love with the model. So it's like, so the pole is a pole, and the sign is a sign, tree is a tree. But the last thing we just got out, which was directed to the DOTs, was to be able to extract the linear features. So edge of pavement, paint stripes, all the key points of barrier, this kind of thing. Very automated, 2 clicks and it spits through there, and then you can export that out. Either GIS data or further on into Civil 3D.
Provide the survey that codes the problem.
What's that?
Provide the survey that codes the point problem.
Yeah, but there's a lot of classification that happens within Inforworks, so we'll go through and find. It'll help you classify. From point cloud. It's not survey, it's point cloud. Letter. Letter.
I think the other thing is, as comfortable as you guys are having that small conversation there, think about the learning curve inside traditional road building state DOTs. Standardized contractual language for contracts for you guys to even provide these services. We may ask for a certain deliverable, but then that generic language has to be written up in the request for proposal or the bid package in order for you guys to even bid on it. What in the world do we want? If I ask for a 2D hydrologic model, and you guys run that model, you write a report. Obviously, there's some familiar with the 2D HEC-RAS. But if we get into like 2RH, 2D, and some of these newer ones, what does a 2D or a 3D deliverable report from the consultant look like? That has to be standardized inside our guidance. We have to have our civil engineers that sit in-house and review the work. What am I looking at? What were the inputs? What's the quality of the inputs that develop the model? So the tools, the add-ons, the layers, and that was kind of the point of where I was at. We all have to work together to make sure that gap doesn't continue to widen. We know it will constantly move because technology and the need to use it and the things we can use it for are fluid, but there's a real learning curve. We often say at ADA we're trying to move them from 1980 to 2000. Okay, so we know all this is out there, so don't ever underestimate the time spent, although it may not be billable. Those are the hard things, writing up your bids or your proposals where you're not getting paid for that stuff, but continue to educate the person that's going to purchase that. The bells and whistles are there. One of the things 2RH, 2D just added is the ability to pull in a traditional HEC-RAS assessment, a 2D HEC-RAS, build a mesh out of that. So that's like an example there where they felt, the designers felt that there was enough probably legacy need where that little add-on might still be beneficial. So yeah, it's a work in progress. So.
All right, great. Very interesting discussion there at the end. I hope that was helpful to all. So you'd thank our speakers for their bit. Go ahead.